Hello everyone and welcome to the Tavern. Today I'm going to talk about Gateway 2024. This is part of the Strategicon family of conventions, which is a series of conventions dedicated to tabletop, LARPing, and a few other associated RPG-esque endeavors. This year we had a pretty big con. I haven't seen numbers like this since the pre-pandemic era, and I'm really glad to see that people are coming back to the event. The rooms oftentimes are filled outside of your lunch and dinner periods, where the rooms would kind of empty up a bit. Not only that, but all the various games were running very smoothly, and generally there was a lot to do, and the dealer hall was packed with some really good booths. This is the version of the convention I was hoping to see back when I attended GameX earlier this year. There were some minor communication issues with the convention staff. However, those things got resolved pretty quickly. While I didn't get the opportunity to DM a game, I ended up finding out why my information didn't go through, so that's been resolved. So maybe at OrcCon or GameX next year, I'll end up running some games. So, without any more preamble, let's get started. Once again, the event was held at the LAX Hilton. This is a really nice venue. In my last video, I talked about how I like the location. You get this beautiful staircase, plenty of rooms, and just a nice ambiance that feels really chill. The bigger issues you're going to have to deal with are parking, because if you go on a day of, you better get lucky on getting a hotel parking spot. Otherwise, you have to go to a location next to the hotel called the parking spot, which can get a little pricey. It's LA after all. Parking is always expensive. Secondly, you may want to consider your food choices. If you're staying at the hotel and you have in-and-out privileges, then going to a location in order to get food, not that big a deal. If you're staying at the parking spot or you were dropped off, your closest restaurant location will be Carl's Jr. unless you're willing to pay hotel food prices. If you are being dropped off or you're staying at the parking spot, I would recommend bringing a few sandwiches and other snack items in a backpack or a cooler. No one at the con's going to give you any strife about that, and you can always take a break and eat your food at any number of the tables located around the convention area. Now, when it comes to things to do, there are 3 floors worth of entertainment. Let's begin with the basement. The basement area has Games on Demand, which allows you to play games that aren't in the normal game rooms. The only drawback I'm going to say is that the location doesn't have particularly good lighting, so bear that in mind if you're going to do some of the Games on Demand stuff. Otherwise, the basement also has Adventures League for those of you who are still playing Dungeons & Dragons. There were a ton of tables, there were signups, and spare rooms as well. There's a lot of D&D opportunities at this convention. I didn't play any Dungeons & Dragons because I'm not playing D&D anymore outside of rare circumstances, and I decided I didn't want to waste my time at Gateway playing Dungeons & Dragons. The first floor has some of the bigger rooms. This includes the flea market, which is actually in a hallway, where people are showing off their independent card games, a few smaller stores that didn't get into the dealer hall, things like that, which is more like the independent game sellers zone. Which leads me into the dealer hall, which was really good this year. You had a few different booths selling minis, got tempted on buying some extra Battletech boys, but since my Kickstarter box just arrived and I have way too many things to paint and allocate as it is, buying more minis right now just feels like it's going to be taking up space until I organize what I already have, which I'm working on it. There's a lot of guys to sort out. Few different booths were selling source books for a couple different games, so if you're looking for that specific book, you may have a chance of finding it there. Dice dealers. I ended up buying some candles at one of the shops, which was great. They have, of course, a huge amount of board games there, so if you're looking for any number of board games, and if you get there fast enough, you might be able to get the boxed sets of a couple different games as well, in addition to a little bit of everything else. Dice towers, Magic the Gathering cards, things like that. Quite a few good items, but because of the amount of people at the con, the aisleways between the booths gets a little tight, and it can feel a little cramped trying to wedge around through there and look at everything. But it is great to see this version of the dealer hall versus what I've seen at previous events post-pandemic. We then have the giant room, which has 2 sections. The board game section, which is exactly what you think it is. You want to play some Chutes and Ladders, Sorry, or Monopoly? There you go. Huge zone for everybody. Pickup games happening all around. The other half of the room is for miniatures gaming, and there are plenty of people with their really cool setups, which I love looking at the maps that have all the extra bling. And that area also has the paint and take zone, where you can basically get a 3D printed mini and paint them up. I found a little soldier guy, and I'm going to actually use him for when I need to deploy infantry in Battletech. So I gave him kind of a standard military man paint job rather than painting him as any specific faction. But there's plenty of other little monster guys, hero guys, just a whole bunch of stuff. In fact, there was a really cool looking centaur that I almost painted up instead, but I had no idea when I would ever use a centaur in a game. The biggest variety of stuff is on the second floor, and there's a lot for me to cover in this area. The first and most important area is the registration zone, primarily because you're going to need to get your badge if you're intending to do anything else at the con. There were some issues with my badge, but it got resolved like that. The staff knows what they're doing and they're very helpful, which is great. The upper area also has the games library. Unfortunately, when I went, they had a leak in the roof. It didn't look like any of the games had been damaged, which is good, but it prevented anyone from going in and out due to the rules that the hotel had, and I was told it did get fixed over the course of the weekend. This area also has the LARP zone, which really isn't my thing, but it almost is always a bustling room, which I do appreciate the fact that there's enough LARPers there, so if you want to get into a LARPing group, if you and your friends want to have a LARPing adventure, this might be a great convention to set that up and have some fun times, ideally meeting other LARPing nerds. Then there's, of course, the awesomest thing at this con. I said it last time, I'm going to say it again. Every Strategicon event, I will always say it. Artemis. I freaking love Artemis. I was only there with my brother, so this wasn't the kind of event where we would have enough people to play the full game. We could have potentially joined up with someone else's game. I would love to get a group together in order to play this game, and it'd be a lot more fun with friends than it would be with random people. So perhaps next time, if I meet some people at the con to get along with, or if I bring more people in my group, we could set up a game of Artemis, do some cool Starship adventures together, and have a great time. One of the things that makes this convention unique is that it is very friendly towards indie game producers. They even have an indie games room where new indie games can be shown off or play tested. Really cool for anyone who's developing a game or has developed a game and wants to try to introduce new people to it at an event. This is a great event to do it. The room is nice, there's plenty of tables, and the staff is very friendly and helpful. In addition to that, there were several just RPG rooms, which are just open rooms. Go in there, set up your game, go have fun. Go to one of those rooms around any of the standard meal times, around noon or 6 o'clock. It's going to be near empty, and you get your choice of table. Bear that in mind if you want to go and play a game with your friends. Go claim a table right around those times where not as many people are in the rooms, and you should be fine. They had the party games room, which I did not take any footage of, primarily because I'd have to ask everyone their permission, and that could get a little crazy. But even during the day, party games is going on, and I hear it's one of the most cool things if you're doing the overnight stay, because there'll be some crazy late night games they'll play at the convention. And frankly, while I would rather spend my time at the evening playing Call of Cthulhu, I could see myself being convinced to play a party game. The other locations I didn't get footage of is the video game room, which isn't particularly impressive and is almost always filled with kids, and it's against my policy to take photos of kids. I just feels weird. In addition to that, there's the family rooms. If you want to play some Candyland or some Trouble, something like that. You got the little ones, you want to keep them entertained for a bit. But the family room is almost always filled up with people, so it's a great place to meet other families, or potentially even have your kids meet new friends. Then we have the collectibles room. This is for Magic the Gathering and any other collectible card games. This room is really large, though I rarely ever see it full. I don't know if that's just because of a lack of collectible card game players, or if I'm going at the wrong times. Then there's the War Games room, for those of you who like to be armchair generals. Saw multiple games going on right now, plus games available for those who want to play and learn. Definitely some great options here, and I highly recommend it for anyone who really enjoys computer war games and might want to take the game to the tabletop, where they'll have some more interesting options than just being stuck with what the programmers give you. Finally, there's Pathfinder Society. I've always wanted to get into Pathfinder, especially after all this other stuff has happened, and I used this as my excuse to do so. I had an awesome DM who was very understanding of my disability, who also led a very fun game. It was just me and my brother, so we had to play multiple characters because that's what the mission was meant for. But in the process, we both learned the rules and really got the general vibe of how Pathfinder works. And I gotta say, I think I'm in on this. I might have to go and pick up a bunch of Pathfinder books because I really enjoyed the game. This was a really good event. This is what I remember Strategicon being like. I tried to push how good the event is during my GameX video, but this con had like twice the numbers, and it was great to see that because I generally think Strategicon is a good series of events, but the quality is very much dependent on the amount of people who show up because you need people to play with, you need people to share a dungeon crawl experience with, and that is very much dependent on attendee numbers. So I'm glad to see that things have moved back to the pre-pandemic numbers, and hopefully that remains the case for OrcCon and GameX next year. In addition to that, as a disabled person, I found everyone there to be very friendly and very accommodating. I always get worried about dealing with ableism when it comes to tabletop and things like that, as I have met DMs who are a little bit ableist. I would also like to say, people, please push in your chairs when you're done. There are people going around in wheelchairs, there are people with canes, and all of us kind of need you to keep your chairs pushed in so it's easier for us to traverse locations. My brother was literally going around pushing in chairs, not only for my sake, but for the sake of the other people we saw at the con who are disabled. If anyone's listening to this and you went to this event or other events, please push your chairs in. It's just courtesy, and it makes life for the disabled so much easier. I really did like the dealer hall, and honestly, if not for some other life expenses, I probably would have bought more. But I'm still happy with what I got. And my brother is too, as he found some things he was looking for. If things were a little bit different, we probably both would have come home with a giant bag of various things. Also, my brother and I watched part of a 40k Apocalypse game. It was freaking crazy. We had multiple different players on that map. The map was huge. Tons of the big, most badass minis going up against each other. Super awesome, and you almost never get to see an Apocalypse game being played, so seeing one was a huge treat for my brother and I. Lastly, I would just like to say that the staff at the con was awesome. Not only did they help me with the weird issues with my badge, not only were they friendly with my disability stuff, not only did I have a great game master for the Pathfinder, but everyone was just always friendly and helpful and happy. You could tell that the staff enjoys being there. They didn't act like they were burned out or tired or frustrated. It's a great staff. It's a great event. I really do hope that the 2025 events all come out great. Not only just so I can enjoy the con more, but so that it shows how word of mouth and good experiences can really help bolster a convention. Obviously, this is a great convention for anyone who's a tabletop gamer. Whether you're into cards, minis, role-playing, LARPing, board games, everything is here. You might just discover a brand new game, and you may just meet some brand new friends. As for whether or not this is worth a long-distance trip, that's hard to say. This is located in Los Angeles. Going as far south as San Diego, that's probably close to a 3-hour drive. That's a bit extreme, unless your plan is to get a hotel room, stay there, maximize your time at the con with family or friends. For a one day, do not do that from San Diego. But from Orange County, from the Inland Empire, I could see it as a worthwhile event. But if you're from San Francisco or the other parts of the Bay Area, probably not worth that super long drive, unless you absolutely positively want to go to a tabletop event. The price for the tickets isn't too bad, and the hotel is reasonable considering it's a Los Angeles hotel. Most importantly, go with other people. It's fun to do the events with family and friends because not only is it a shared experience, but there's aspects of the experience that are enhanced by having people around you that you know and love. Yes, you can meet new friends at this con, but it's a great way to take your tabletop friends and have a fun experience with them. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. And if you went to Gateway this year, let me know. I'd love to know if any of my fans are in the Los Angeles area, and maybe we can meet up at the next con and play a game together. I would love to host a game of Call of Cthulhu or Battletech, possibly Pathfinder or something like that if I learn the rules enough to feel ready to be a DM. Until next time, thank you for watching. Please look forward to more convention reviews, as I do have a very busy fall convention schedule, and I will make more videos like this because I enjoy sharing my convention experiences with those of you out there who also love going to conventions. Until then, I'll see you at the tavern.